What's up, guys? I just wanted to hop on here and borrow just a little bit of your time because I've been thinking about something a lot lately. There's a lot that could be said about Insomniac and how they handle Spider-Man and his lore and his characterization and his villains and all that stuff. And a lot of people will, call Brian Inzahar and the people that he works with hack frauds and people that are accusing him of not understanding Spider-Man, not liking Spider-Man, trying to ruin Spider-Man. Look, I think that there's some validity to the feeling that the Spider-Man character, the Peter Parker character, is under attack. And he has been for almost 20 years, ever since One More Day came out. But I don't think necessarily that the people at Insomniac that work on these Spider-Man games are trying to drag him through the mud. Excuse me. I think that they just wanted to go for, a different take, a different perspective on the character. Have I liked everything that they've done? Absolutely not. Hell no. I don't think anybody has. But to say that, they're actively trying to ruin the character is ridiculous. Is it absurd for him to be fighting, Dr. Octopus for the very first time 8 years into his career? Sure. Especially after he's fought Sandman and the Lizard and the Rhino and Mysterio and Electro and Shocker and Vulture. Like, he's fought everybody but Doc Ock. And then Kraven and Venom are a year later, and it looks like he's going to be, 12 years into the game before he fights Green Goblin. That's silly, right? But I don't think any of that really matters. I think that there is something to be said about how repetitive the plots of the two games are. The second half of the game involving some sort of sickness that goes around infecting all of New York, and somebody that he cares about, being at risk of dying, and the plot just giving him an anti-whoever the hell he's fighting suit that is mandatory for the final fight. All that stuff is, it's noticeable. It's incredibly noticeable the second time around. But all of that leads me to, I guess, what we're really here to talk about today, which is where to go next. Because the way that Spider-Man 2 ends, it sets up a third game that is about God knows what. It was pretty clear to tell that from the end of the second game, Peter and Miles were going to be working together as Spider-Men, and the DLCs helped to flesh that out. And then Miles got his own game to really facilitate that transition from him being just, an NPC to being Spider-Man, to being a competent and confident Spider-Man that can protect New York when Peter's not around, or they can work together. And then along the way, they decided to add Kraven. I think that complicated the story to a degree that was unnecessary. But the end of that game, Spider-Man 2, clearly sets up the Green Goblin. He talks about the G serum. We can assume that while developing a cure for Harry's disease that he inherited from his mother, he came up with a serum that grants enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, durability, all that stuff, and he'll become the Green Goblin next time. I do look forward to that. I love the Green Goblin. I think most Spider-Man fans love the Green Goblin, but there's also this weird element of, it seems like Otto is plotting some sort of escape from prison. Maybe he'll be back. There's a lot of speculation that they're setting up Superior Spider-Man. And I definitely don't want that, because we just did Evil Peter. Talk about the second game being repetitive when compared to the first game. We just had Evil Peter Benjamin Parker. We cannot do it again in the very next game. Right? But what is that next game going to be about? I, as well as many other people, had a lot to say about the fact that Miles does not have nearly enough to do in Spider-Man 2. It seems like the plot forgets about him a lot, pretty often. There were a lot of times the first time I was playing it, like I mentioned in my longer video about this, I've been playing as Peter for so long, and I'm like, dude, can I please switch to Miles? And the story just wouldn't let me. It's like, what's going on? Or, Miles will call Peter and be like, hey, you need me to do anything? And it's really, I don't know, it's really frustrating. But I would like at least for the entire first half of the next game to be Miles. You know, if you're gonna have two Spider-Men in the box art and we're playing as two Spider-Men, I would like to be able to play as two Spider-Men. You know, because one thing I was concerned about when I was playing the Miles game is like, am I even gonna want to play as Peter? You know, Miles is so much fun to play as. He turns invisible, he's got Venom powers, he has a whole different, like, animation set for swinging and for combat, and it's so much fun, and it's so expressive to play as Miles. And he's full of the exaggerated swagger of a black teen, or whatever they said. So, like, that is probably the leading reason that they decided to give Peter the symbiote in the next game, just to, like, balance them out, make them equal with each other. But let's talk about the symbiote for just a second, and what it means for the next game. If you've played Spider-Man 2, which is, you know, I assume you have because you're here, then you probably remember him getting the anti-venom suit, because he wore it for too long, which is crazy because he only wore it for like 3 days at most, maybe a week. But the way that the plot is presented to you, it feels like 3 days. So he wore it for too long, and it's like bonded to his DNA intrinsically. And Mr. Negative's powers and Miles' powers combined with what's left of the symbiote, and he gets the anti-venom suit. And he has the ability to, like, burn away symbiote material, I guess. That's cool. But it's, like, stuck, it's in him, right? Like the way that the game sets it up, it's like it's part of him for the rest of his life, it seems like. I do not want to see that suit in the next game. And it's not because of its design or anything. I don't want Peter to have symbiote powers forever. I think that's pretty reasonable. I think that most Spider-Man fans like a good black suit arc, but that's the thing. And yes, it's not a black suit, it's a white suit, but it's the exact same thing, except it doesn't alter his personality. I don't care what your excuse is for getting rid of it. Have Reed Richards do it. The Fantastic Four exist in this universe now. Have Reed Richards get rid of the symbiote for him off screen. I don't want to see it ever again. You know, you need to find some other way to keep Peter and Miles' gameplay relative to each other in terms of enjoyment. Another thing is that the post-credit scene of the last game sets up Cindy Moon, as a lot of you guys may know, is Silk. I believe she is, I think she's Korean. If I got that wrong, I'm sure you guys will let me know. And I believe she also shoots webs out of her fingertips, which is cool. But the thing is, Silk is like known for like having a certain dynamic with Peter, and it seems like she's going to be way too young for that. And Peter is heavily committed to MJ in these games, which is nice. You know, it's a big win for their relationship. But it's kind of weird to like, okay, yeah, let's do Cindy out of nowhere. Because the way that she's introduced, it's like, well, Miles is also in a relationship with Haley. And, you know, obviously you don't necessarily need to do that with Silk if she's going to be a part of the story. Obviously she's got way more to her character, but it's just, I don't know, it just feels like a strange choice. We could do Jessica Drew. We could do Anya Corazon. We could do Julia Carpenter. We could do Gwen Stacy, if that's what you want to do. But I am personally of the opinion that we don't need a third Spider-Person in the next game. Not that I don't want a Spider-Woman or a Spider-Girl. Obviously, I love Spider-Girl and I miss her. I wish she would come back. Thanks, Joe Quesada. But what are we gonna do with a third Spider-Person in this game? It was already hard enough for them to balance Peter and Miles. You can't add a third one. And then it's like, okay, yeah, we'll do. Because another problem that I had with the last game is that, like, it was such a Peter-centric story. It's about Peter's best friend. You know, it's about Peter's former villain who is trying to cure Peter's best friend. And somebody shows up and tries to take out Peter and tries to take out Peter's previous villain. And then tries to take out Peter's new villain. Venom is Harry. It's intrinsically connected to Peter. MJ becomes Scream. It's connected to Peter. Miles is just kind of being strung along by the plot. And I understand that, like, he's still really recent as far as comic books go. He's only been around for like 20% the amount of time that Peter has. He doesn't have nearly the amount of stories and his own rogues gallery and all that stuff yet. Make something up. Like, Wraith is Peter's former friend. You know, like everything in this game, the Mysteriums being Miles only is so silly to me because Mysterio is Peter's villain. Like the entire game is centered around Peter with the exception of like the Prowler stashes and like the stuff that you can do at Brooklyn Visions. That's what Miles gets to do. Like the Jazz Museum, Brooklyn Visions, the Prowler stashes, all of that is side content. But the whole main plot of the story revolves around Peter and his web of characters, no pun intended, and his story. And so now we're setting up a game that might have Superior Spider-Man in it, but is definitely going to have the Green Goblin, which is Peter's best friend's father, who he had a relationship with for many, many years. And now we're going to throw Cindy Moon in that? What's she going to do? She's going to be standing there twiddling her thumbs. Does she have any villains? Please educate me. I don't know a whole lot about Silk. I haven't really been reading Marvel comics in a long time. I prefer DC comics lately. But like, what the hell is she supposed to do? What is she going to do in the story? I don't get it. I really don't understand. I don't know. I want to be optimistic for this game. I'm definitely going to play it unless it just looks like hot trash. I'm a huge fan of this franchise so far. I loved the first game, I loved the second game, and I thought that the third game was... I still think it's pretty good, right? I've played through it maybe 4 or 5 times now. I've done a few New Game Pluses on Ultimate Difficulty, and man, does Venom beat the shit out of me on that difficulty. But it's like... I don't know, the way that the second game leaves off is just kind of like difficult to get excited, especially, you know, looking behind the scenes at like them getting hacked, Insomniac getting hacked, and all their stuff getting leaked, everything that they had for like the Wolverine game being out there now. I'm also concerned about the Wolverine game, you know, but that could be a whole different video. I'm sure I've talked about that game in the past, and there's more to say just because of how little there is to say. You know, a game gets announced in 2021, and here we are, we haven't seen anything from it. Another game that was announced in 2021 was just recently canceled, the Wonder Woman game. So it's a little stressful. But I don't know, what do you guys say? Do you think I'm like overreacting? What's your favorite game in the Insomniac Spider-Man trilogy? And are you looking forward to the next one? Do you think that this will be the final game? Do you think that they should do another game just about Miles? Do you think they should do one... Oh my god. Do you think they should do one just about Cindy? Do you hope that this blossoms into some sort of Spider-Verse game? Where like maybe you get to play as Kane or Ben or Miguel? Because there is that tie-in that happens in the game to a deleted scene from the movie. It's very clear that like... I don't know if it's necessarily that like the Peter from these games is a part of that Spider Society. I don't know what the legality of that is. But there's references, right? You know, the first movie has the Insomniac suit in it, and in the second movie, like Peter, as if he's been rendered in the game, is in the movie. Like he's there in a full CGI model, which is really sick. But it's like, is that really the same Peter from these games, or is that another Peter from an alternate Insomniac universe? I don't know, none of that matters. But like, do you want to see it become more than it is, or do you just want it to end? Do you want other people to start making Spider-Man games? Tell me what you think below, and I look forward to reading it. And also, for the hell of it, who do you main in Marvel Rivals? I'm a Magneto guy when I play Vanguard, and for Strategist, I like to play Loki. I think he's like underrated. I don't play Duelist. I barely play the game, to be completely honest with you. I gotta get out of here. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.